You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Project Runway After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Project Runway After Show.
There it is.
Boom.
Good work, Martin. Welcome, everybody. Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another Project Runway, Season 11, Episode 9, He Said, She Said. Which is a really appropriate title, I think, more for the chaos of what happened in tonight's episode rather than the actual challenge.
Right.
Seems like. For those of you that are just tuning in, my name is Lauren Mendoza, and I'm with my fabulous co-host.
Why, thank you. This is Cougar. And think about it tonight. He said, she said.
He said, she said. It was very much the theme.
No, I mean us.
Oh,
right
exactly.
now. He said, she said.
He said, she said.
I'm so excited because of all the, of our team. Usually we sit next to each other and we disagree. Now we can sit across from each other and disagree.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So for those of you that have been with us throughout the season, of course, thank you for tuning in. But Cougar and I, we tend to disagree. So this is going to be fun to see where we stand in this episode and to host it together. We've never done it just the two of us.
I know. I'm very excited. I miss Virginia and Alina.
I don't.
But we
I'm
look
just
good.
kidding.
Yeah, actually.
I'm just kidding. I do. I always do.
She's kidding. I'm not.
Oh. No, I do. I miss them. Yes. So let's get into this episode because this was pretty kind of a juicy episode, I thought.
Super juicy, because last week there was no winner, only a loser. Amanda was out, but it was everybody, let's pick on Richard, that poor SOB, terrible designer, particularly by one, Leona from Brazil, I think, hating on him big time. And so we came into this week seeing a little bit of like a vengeful streak in Richard's eye.
Well, you know what I was thinking too as we were watching this? He kind of already had it out for her a little bit because he was really jealous a couple episodes ago when Stanley chose Leona.
Right.
After Richard and Stanley had been working together and he thought they had this really great thing.
Right.
So he kind of already had it out for her. But before we get to that drama.
Don't you steal my boyfriend?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So before we get to that drama, let's start off with the challenge. The contestants meet Tim at Lord & Taylor in New York City. And he brings them in, and of course they're already all excited to be at Lord & Taylor because it's everyone's dream to be in a retail store. So they kind of already, I think, have an idea of what their challenge might be. So Tim meets them there and gives them their challenge, which is to make a ready-to-wear look and inspired by the Lord & Taylor signature rose. It's been around since 1943. That's their symbol.
Yeah.
So they're all excited about that because the winner of this challenge will have their look reproduced, sold at Lord & Taylor stores, in the store and also online. Available today, by the way. Today. So we're excited to get to whose dress you can buy. But the fun part about this challenge was that the judges, after the last challenge, decided to switch up the teams.
Again.
So immediately, everybody kind of got nervous.
Right.
Especially because of the drama that happened on the runway last week.
Oh, man. And when we saw the recap of the commentary from Zach Posen and Nina and Heidi about who they were going to put together, I loved it because it cast a shadow. It cast a cloud of drama over this episode.
Yeah.
Which was great. So who did we start out with teams?
So we started off with Stanley and Patricia, which was an interesting pairing. I don't remember exactly what the judges, why they picked the two of them. It seemed like it was really well thought out.
They picked those two because Stanley's controlling, Patricia's defensive. But they both produce great
Right.
things. So I remember Zach and Nina Nina saying, should we do that? Should we put them together? It could be chaos. And I think Zach was like, yeah, but the chaos could create something wonderful too, if they can keep their egos or whatever out of it and keep, the controlling issues away.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
So Stanley and Patricia get put together, and it's funny because they're both kind of nervous about it.
Right.
It seems like
man.
I think Stanley made a comment about how he makes like really classic looks, and so he's kind of worried about having Patricia as a teammate because that's not really her
I'd
thing.
be worried about Patricia as a teammate too, just because of her defensive nature all season long. And I mean, she just seems super tough to work with. I didn't know that Stanley before this episode was so controlling.
I didn't either.
So,
But and that's the thing, like everybody gives Patricia a bad rap, so maybe I just don't know what it's like to be in there with her, but I always feel like, she's really creative, she's doing her own thing.
Right.
And so I don't know. Like, why hate on Patricia? I don't know. I don't get it yet, why they don't like her. But then we have Michelle and Daniel. And they were interesting to me because I didn't know how they were going to react, but they both seemed like, okay, well, this could be interesting.
Yeah.
But they weren't against it.
They were the only two of
Right.
all the pairings that gave each other a hug when announced. And so it was like, okay, they were cool with it. Daniel definitely could use the help from, the younger generation because his stuff has just been dated. And, we loved him at the beginning, and he's just become more and more sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Which will come up later in this episode.
They seemed not necessarily excited, but kind of open to it. Like they kind of saw the positive in it, which I thought was really cool.
And
like,
Michelle's been going
okay.
up. She's been on the upswing of showing what she's capable of doing. So positive about that.
But Michelle, you're right. The same thing you said about Daniel being dated, that seemed to be her one and only concern with him.
Right.
So then what was left was Samantha, Richard, and Liana. And
Juicy.
It was really funny because Liana was kind of rolled her eyes and was really hoping that wouldn't happen just because of the tension that was created on the runway.
Right.
The previous episode when they all pretty much threw Richard under the bus.
Yeah.
Right? But Amanda's the one that got kicked off. So.
Because she was not even arguably, Amanda was a terrible designer that should have gone home a couple episodes ago.
Right.
Anyways, Richard, showed some creativity. He has a great technique with his construction. I can only assume, because we weren't here last week, that's why they kept him over her. Liana is just a little troublemaker. And I wrote down, why the heck hasn't she gone home yet?
Really?
And because her troublemaking always makes me forget that she does actually do.
She's a good designer.
Pretty good designs, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because I remember in the beginning of the season, she seemed so sweet and nice, and I still think she seems that way. But what it was, if I remember correctly, she would be really sweet and nice to the people in the workroom, and when she was making her suggestions, she'd be like, well, maybe you don't want to go with that. Like, she would kind of try and say it in a positive way.
Right.
And now, which I think happens every season, they get comfortable with each other. They've been in this room together, they're all stressed out. And now you don't really hold back. Now you're saying what you're actually thinking rather than being nice and then saying your real thoughts to the producer and the camera.
Sure.
So.
And Liana, she's been like the sound bite champion of the entire season.
Yeah.
So maybe even though she started sweet in the workroom, she would always be in the little confessional and be just ripping on everybody.
Yeah, she'd have some kind of jab.
Yeah.
But it created a weird dynamic, I think, for Samantha because she knows about the tension between the two of them, and now she has to work with both of them.
Right.
So I guess to get to it, basically the teams that had the 2 people had to create 2 looks. Team with 3 people had to create 3 looks. So really, everybody was just creating their own look. I kind of don't even understand why this was a team challenge.
I don't either.
It didn't need to be cohesive.
Well, it was interesting because the 2 look teams only got 150 to split for the 2 looks. 3 looks got 225 a day to do all the looks. And I really hate that about this season. Yeah. Only getting a day to produce 4 ready to wear. They've had to do, couture dresses in a day. And we're really not getting to see what the designers are capable of because it's high stress and it's not letting them produce their best work.
And it's not realistic,
It's not realistic either
like
at all.
If we're looking at this group of designers and thinking, one of them could be designing clothes that we want to wear.
Right.
If they were to make it that far in their career, they wouldn't be designing under that stressful
never.
of a situation. So you're right. Like, we're not really seeing their full potential.
And I've not been impressed with any of these designers, just hands down.
Right.
I'm putting that out there. We've been saying it, you know, all throughout the season. Nobody stands out. There are no Mitris, you know, no other great stars. But maybe there is a little bit to say about the fact that they're under such pressure that they're not producing what they're capable of, because I don't remember this from past seasons. It's kind of the deadlines of a day, a half a day, 6 hours.
Because you know what I think? I feel like, you know, like you said, Daniel, he started off so strong in the beginning. We really liked everything that he was creating. Maybe if he had a few more days, maybe we'd always like what he was doing. The same thing, I think, with all of them. So maybe when you think about it, if they did have more time, maybe there are some that would really stand out.
Daniel's choices have become more and more questionable, though.
Right. I agree with that. I think he needs some guidance on that, but he started off so strong.
He did. He's got great,
and they were young looks. They weren't dated looks.
No.
So I kind of feel like he's got it in him.
He's going down the rabbit hole, though.
Yeah.
And we'll see a little bit of Daniel's journey down the rabbit hole in this episode.
Yeah, so to continue, you mentioned the budget they had. They had 30 minutes to sketch. Were there any sketches? What did you think about the sketches, or did anything stand out to you in that time?
The sketches were interesting because they had to sketch from the Lord and Taylor rows. They all like sat, you know, in different parts of the store, which seemed really just odd. And I remember that Patricia and Stanley, right, you know, they went to their little corner. Stanley starts just, you know, instantly taking Patricia's sketch and being like, well, you should do it this way, and this way. And I remember Patricia, she was so good at not rolling her eyes, but the great monologue that they gave her about just, you know, when dealing with a controlling person, just nod your head, say yes, and move on. I thought was really telling of how they were gonna be in the workroom. As far as sketches that stood out, the only one I can really remember that I thought, you know, I don't know, that made an impression on me was Michelle's. And it was interesting to me because I thought it wasn't going to work. She was going to do this vest over a dress, and it, to me, it looked like she was going to do some sort of clear vest because it was a rain vest, and she didn't have color on it, and I was like, I didn't understand. Weird.
The person that stood out to me, and it never really changed, was Richard. He had, like, the dress that he ended up with was pretty much what he was sketching, and
That's
I thought,
true.
no, don't do that.
Don't do that. Again, we saw he was going to go with the pink and the black, and I mean, just why?
He basically was like, I'm going to sketch this long jersey dress, but I want a pop of color, and I'm thinking pink. I'm thinking pink. He's like walking around mood and thinking pink, and I'm thinking, no, black and pink. Like, let's just stop
black and
that.
pink belong in Las Vegas or at like your junior prom.
In the 90s, right? Exactly.
There you go.
So I was thinking, oh gosh, no, but it was interesting to see how they were already starting to work together. I think it was Daniel that was like, I want to do pants, and Michelle was like, well, you know, you got to think, does a young person want to, like, are they going in there saying, I want pants? To buy pants? Yeah. Right. So it was interesting. And then Patricia was already talking about how she wanted to create her own textile.
Right.
And Stanley was like, what do you mean? And she's like, for the textile, so I could create the textile. Almost like, why would you even ask me that question?
Hello.
But that's what she does. Like, she creates her own textiles. Like, she loves to do that, and let her do it.
And Sam wanted to create something youthful, fun, and sexy. She showed us, you know, this like heart-shaped cutout design on a kind of, you know, like a knee-length skirt, or, you know, something like that. And I think that both of us, or at least I thought that the heart-shaped cutout thing, compared to what everybody else was doing, especially super junior. Well, and she made her case about how, like, oh, I'm so excited about this challenge because I've been buying from Lord and Taylor ever since I was younger. And I'm thinking, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lord and Taylor's not a cheap store. Like, it's not inexpensive. So unless she grew up, you know, with good money, and maybe she did, I wasn't buying, I mean, I didn't grow up that way. Like, I don't know. I just thought, really? Are you sure? Horn nose ring thing she got going on. And she just did not come across to me as a Lord and Taylor shopper.
And if they don't have really young looks, how young were you when you were buying those things? Did you really want to buy? I don't know. I just didn't buy that. Was your mom taking
you to the, like, Lord and Taylor toddler section?
Yeah.
Yeah, that soundbite did not
So
fit.
basically she was just saying, you know, I know Lord and Taylor so well, and I know, which she was right on that. She's like, I know they do want to bring a younger demographic to the store.
Right.
So that's where her goal was. That's what she was aiming to do in creating this younger look.
Something that Project Runway producers tend to do is that they give us these great foreshadowing moments all the time with every different contestant. It's like at the beginning of the episode, we're going to put in the soundbite because it may foreshadow something.
Right.
Samantha, I know Lord and Taylor.
Yeah.
I shopped there since I was young.
No.
Moment.
Don't believe it. Yeah, so that was an interesting part. Well, then from there, we go actually into the workroom.
Right, and immediately in the workroom, tensions are high.
Yeah.
Tensions are high, and
it started pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like the first thing I wrote down about the workroom was the relationship between Patricia and Stanley, and Stanley's amazing soundbite. You need to listen to me when we have discussions.
It was amazing because she not only raised her eyebrows and just stood there completely stunned, but I don't know if they edited it this way, but everybody looked up and looked over him like, you've got to be kidding me. He did not just say that to an adult woman.
Right.
Who's probably older than him, right?
Yeah.
Regardless, you don't say that to an adult at all.
Like with no context. You need to listen when we have discussions.
Yes,
and that could have been in the editing, of course, but still.
But he still said it, and he said it that way.
Right.
That part wasn't edited. I was thinking more like the reactions of everybody else. Like all of a sudden it was like everyone was a deer in the headlights, like perking up.
Did that just happen?
Did he just say what I think he said?
Right.
And I mean, she handled it really well, but I couldn't believe he said that either. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah.
So
I would have been thrown up a like, whoa.
Yeah, you did not. You did not just say that to me.
You did not just say that to me.
No, you didn't. Yeah, that was an interesting part. And Patricia, what I wrote down of her in the workroom is that she went off to like experiment with like her fabric.
Patricia with the buckets.
Yeah, she walks off, she's like, I need to wet my fabric, goes off and wets the fabric, and she comes back to like iron it or do some kind of manipulation, and then there's Stanley again saying, and
he like rushes over there to her ironing board, like looking over, like, what are you doing? Right.
I don't even know what his point was. What was he trying to tell her?
Well, he was trying to tell her that whatever she was trying to do that was experimental was not going to work, because this is a ready-to-wear piece, and she needed to remember that whatever she was thinking she might do in her mind would not necessarily translate to what could be manufactured.
Smart. That's a smart thing, but maybe he just doesn't say it right.
But he just like appeared like, like, boop, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Wringing the stuff out of the bucket. What are you doing?
Maybe he just needs to work on his
on the screen right
people skills.
Yeah, and she looks like she wants to punch him in the face, which she probably
kind of
does.
often looks like she wants to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah.
I think that's just her expression.
That could be it.
And she probably did want to punch him in the face, because I sure as hell would if he was like
all
over
up in my grill,
my shoulder, pointing at me, telling me to listen to him, and telling me, what I probably already know. But it's a good point. I just don't think he comes across very well.
Somebody else was about to get punched in the face in the workroom. Can we talk about the war between Richard and Liana?
Oh, well, first of all, Richard and Liana never really spoke.
No.
They didn't talk to each other when they were sketching.
War.
And even Liana noticed it. She's like, Richard will not say anything to me. And then Samantha was like, this is going to be really awkward. And if this continues, she's like, it's going to be war out on the runway.
Right.
So,
I think Liana had a little bit of a plan going on here to get rid of Richard. Like maybe ever since the Stanley thing, like I think she knew how to get under his skin, and she made that point about, if we don't talk and work together, then we're not going to end up on the top. They're not going to see our teamwork. But she was, I don't know, she's shifty.
You think so?
She's
I don't know, because when they don't get to the top, she doesn't get to the top. If they're on a team together.
She didn't make an effort, There wasn't any effort shown on her part to reach out to him.
But they were interesting because Tim Gunn comes in and he goes to their team first, and they take a look at Samantha's outfit or her dress. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Tim advised her to do separates. She didn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she thought that was a really great idea, and it seemed like that's the direction she was going to go, and she never really did.
No, yeah, He gave her that. He looked at her dress, looked at the details she was going for, and said that he was supportive of it. But if you could have seen Tim Gunn's face when he saw that heart shape, that said it all.
I think we all had the same face when we saw the heart shape. She was putting this heart shape cutout on the back of her dress.
We can actually see, well, not his face exactly.
Well, but people might not be able to see it at home. But she had it was like a ruffly skirt. You end up seeing it down the runway, but it looked, I think, cheap right away.
Cheap.
And the heart looked like a little kid cut it out.
You wouldn't find that in the fashion district in New York. You would find that in Santee Alley in Los Angeles under $2.
It was bad.
Yeah, fabric choice was bad, cut and style was bad,
but I
heart
think
bad.
He was telling her, she's going in an okay direction, but maybe think to redo it. And she seemed to take his, his suggestions well, but actually didn't go with that, which I think is weird. They talk about Lyanna's dress, and of course Richard has to find something bad to say about it. She picked out this floral print,
right? And
she had the leathering detail around the waist.
I thought it was interesting when I expected more sparks there.
Yeah.
Maybe they kept it in because of Tim. Richard did pick out something negative about her dress, but he also picked out something relevant about like as a
about
critique.
Spring?
Yeah, he just made a point that it maybe wasn't the best choice of fabric, and we heard that same sentiment echoed in the judging panel later in the episode. But I think that just goes to show that his critique of her stuff was relevant and it wasn't too harsh.
I thought he said that he didn't like the leather. Or is that not what he said?
I thought it was. I wrote down the material.
You're probably right. I probably wasn't paying enough attention.
Of course.
But the way that I thought, because he said, when I think of spring, I think of open-toed shoes.
Right.
Something. So I don't know. I thought he was hinting at
he also said
the use of leather really wasn't springish, and for me, I thought, I kind of like that it was a little bit different because I think that's where we're headed nowadays.
Right.
Leather and spring. Why
there was
not?
A couple other people that were having a little bit of an interesting time in the workroom. Michelle and Daniel. So we thought that they would start out as maybe a nice little comfortable, cozy couple.
Right.
And then, at the first workroom segment, Michelle's energy was just very negative towards my fabric, and that was Daniel's first great one-liner.
Right. And you know what? I totally disagreed with him because I think she made it obvious that she didn't love the pink. That, she said, I'm just not a pink girl. It's not my thing.
But she also kept backing up, too, because he picked this bubblegum pink, and she said a few times, no, I like the pink. I like this shade of pink. But
I think that's the thing. I think she didn't want him to do pink, but I think if he's going to go pink, she supported him, which that's what I actually liked about her as a teammate.
Right.
She was obvious that she didn't really think pink was a great choice, but that's because she doesn't really like pink.
Sure.
But if he's going to go with it, she said there's something really lovely about this shade, and I think she was being honest. I don't think she doesn't seem I don't know. I don't feel like we've seen her say things that she doesn't mean.
Right.
So I think she was trying to be positive and looking at the positive. I think she just said, she doesn't love pink, but if you're going to go with pink,
do it.
That's not a bad shade. I like that shade.
Right.
So, and he just wasn't taking it well. That's the way it seemed to me.
Yeah, this was just a ball of bad energy for Daniel. And once that happened, and then once Tim came in for the critique, so Tim's critique, he comes over, checks out what they're doing. He, talks about Michelle's first, and he's worried about her construction and the details that are going into this vest that she's spending a lot of time with. And Michelle is she is attached to this vest. Yeah. That is her work, her style, not springy at all. It's like a slate gray. Yeah. And maybe with it had I think a green trim on the inside. Yeah. But Tim's no. You really need to focus your energy somewhere else. Get off this vest thing. It's not working. Go somewhere else. And so she was sad.
I'm glad she took his advice though, because I personally didn't see anything amazing about that vest that she really needed to keep it.
Exactly.
So I think she did a good job in taking his advice, but then they were looking at Daniel's, and Daniel had, from what we saw at that time, it was just a jacket. They kind of seemed, or Michelle didn't think it was young enough. Apparently, I thought it actually looked very modern because it was a deep V which, you know, you could see people wearing that nowadays with nothing underneath.
Right.
And then a really structured shoulder. And then I like that he actually did, I think, like an orange or corally belt with the pink.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that looked really good together. But somehow they talked him out of doing that. And it was really interesting. You could tell he was like, it was like his time of the month or something. Because
Oh my God.
he got into talking to the producer and
my
ended
God.
up breaking down and crying.
Whoa.
Because he made the decision to start over. And I was
Right.
like, really? You're
When you
crying?
make something you love, and then you have to destroy it. Oh
But it
my
was like he
God.
was talking. It was like, you know, and then he just stopped and then he just started crying.
Right.
It was
About
almost
the
like
jacket.
shocking. Like, whoa,
I know.
Are you crying right now? Did
And that was
just
that was the first little taste of Daniel going down into whatever.
Yeah, breaking down. Yeah.
The freak down.
Yeah.
They cut away. They go to Stanley and Patricia, and the only thing I remember about that little interaction between Tim and them was that Stanley was like, you know, he was real hot about his dress.
Right.
He's like, oh, it's beautiful, springy, youthful, and Tim's like, what's youthful?
No, he was like, and what's new about it?
And what's new
How
about
is
it?
this different?
And
Which is so
Amen.
true.
Amen.
Perfect
Nothing
point.
going on there.
And
Nothing.
I don't think Stanley could really even defend it. I think it was
No.
like the color.
But he
was the
still
biggest
loved it.
thing.
And he
loved
even
it.
said, he's like, you know, I'm just not going to listen to that. I'm going to stick to my true whatever.
Right.
And it was fine. It was boring as hell.
I thought it was really classy. I thought it was very classic. It could, you know, could be timeless.
Right.
So
It looked
I
a
think
little
that was
J.
great.
Crew, actually.
Yeah, it was very simple, which I think simple can be a really good thing. But no, was it new? Definitely
No.
not. Was it like, would you say it's creative? No,
No.
because we've seen it already. So that was Tim's critique, and I totally got that. Patricia, I felt like he liked where she was going, but he encouraged her to kind of simple it down.
Right. She may
Especially
not have been hitting her
because-
price point.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I think, what was she going to do? Like silk or something
Silk
over the
and
pants?
silk organza.
Over the pants.
Which is her thing, apparently. And yeah.
I would not wear silk organza pants.
No.
It doesn't seem comfortable.
I would not wear that either.
No. I would hope not.
Yeah.
That would be really funny, though, if you did one day.
Maybe for the
I would like
season
it.
finale.
Yeah. Especially if Patricia made them.
Oh, yeah.
I want her to
If
send
I could
them
have
to
some,
you.
like, genie pants that have an overlay of silk organza,
Oh,
Patricia,
that would
if
be
you're listening
great.
right now.
I would love that.
Right. So
Yeah.
Tim leaves, and then we get back to
Tim leaves, and Patricia took his criticism well.
Right.
Daniel's breaking down, starting over, and then we get to you tell
Oh
everyone
my
what we
God,
get to.
Daniel jumps off the ledge. And he's so funny because he's in the booth or whatever, you know, I like to call it the confessional, like we're on Jersey Shore
So
or whatever.
true.
And his head is shaking with his funny little mustache and his, you know, little wispy hairs that are slicked back. He freaks out
Yeah.
about the workroom, and then it cuts to the workroom, and he's having this meltdown about, so you said it's 21, that we have to make things for 21-year-olds, Michelle. You said that. 21-year-olds. He kept saying 21-year-olds. He was
Yeah.
like fixated on
And
this
she was
thing
like,
that she said.
"No,
That's
I
not what I
didn't."
meant.
Well, but it was funny because he was like, so this needs to be for a 21-year-old. She's like, well, no, not exactly. He's like, no, but that's what you
But that's
told
what
me.
you said.
That's what you said. She's
That
like,
is what
I
you
didn't
said.
say 21-year-old. I said, you know, it needs to be youthful.
Right.
No, you said 21-year-old. No, and he would not let it go.
And like, what difference did it even make if it
Yeah.
was 21-year-old, whatever? She meant youthful like a 21-year-old.
And she kept going, no, Daniel, I didn't. And then the more he kept going, and you could tell he was annoyed with her, and you could tell it was just weird. It was like, what is
so
happening?
bizarre.
And she even said that. She's like, Daniel, what are you doing right now?
Yeah.
What is happening? Why? Like, he just would not
'Cause
let
he was-
that
I think he
21
was-
thing go.
It was the pink that, you know, he knew she didn't like.
Yeah.
It was having to get rid of his jacket. It was all those things, and it just made him not make sense. Like,
Yeah.
he just got thrown over the edge, and he was mad, and he didn't know where to put it, because apparently, normally, he's a happy guy.
Yes.
Now, can we talk about his moment in the
Please.
confession booth?
Please do.
I lost it, and I forgot about it. That special that made me special.
Yeah. He says, I used to make designs, or I designed to make people happy.
Yeah.
And I
lost it a few episodes ago.
And Michelle, you are not going to bring me down.
You're not
he was
gonna...
like talking to Michelle in this confessional.
Right. And I lost that special that made me special.
That was so interesting. And he cried.
Special what?
And he's like, and I found it again.
But these are tears of happiness. These are tears of happiness. And Michelle, I'm not going to let you bring me down.
You know, maybe he's just the kind of designer where he's always been really good and everybody's always told him that he's good. So now he's in a room.
Small town Texas. Of course they're all going to tell him he's good.
And probably for being from small town Texas, he probably is really good.
Right.
And now he's in a room with people that are a lot younger than him. You know, he's competing, and now he's hearing it from them and also from Heidi Klum and Nina Garcia and Zach Posen that your outfits or your dresses are getting dated.
Right.
And that's probably really hard for him to hear. And I think all of that stress is just like comes crashing down on him. And poor Michelle just happened to be his partner to kind of take that.
I don't really think she did anything wrong.
No.
But dude was totes on his period.
Crazy. Yeah, he definitely was. It was his time of the month.
Drinking too much soy milk, my friend.
Serious.
Bring those estrogen levels down.
Yeah. So that's our notes on the runway, or sorry, on the workroom.
Right.
Do you have anything else from the workroom? I mean, it was just an interesting time.
I don't know why I didn't write this down. Somebody said, oh, it was Michelle. Michelle was kind of like, my hands are clean because she didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't trying to sabotage him. She was just like, oh my God, what is he tripping about? And
I think everybody was thinking that, though.
Right.
I mean, I know we were.
Of all designers this season, I really had so many high hopes for him. He could have been a favorite, but there is no favorite this season, especially after this episode.
So he still can't win your heart. You think there's no hope?
I don't think there's hope for Daniel to win my heart. In the next however many episodes we have left, who is possibly going to show us something that we haven't already seen that's going to be amazing, where we're going to be like, oh my God, how did we never know that this person was that great all season? I just don't see it coming.
I'm hopeful.
You're still hopeful?
Yeah, I am. But it was funny because so after they had that big fight, they go home and they're each talking to, their roommates about the situation. Of course, their roommates are taking their side. So then they come back to the workroom the next day and they hug. And Daniel goes, water under the bridge, Michelle, water under the bridge. And she's like, well, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I thought that was really funny. I think it's just like to make him feel better about himself and the blow up that he had.
And then we see them in the workroom for the last 2 hours that they have, and Tim breaks it down. They only have an hour for this, 45 minutes for this, and you got to get hair and makeup and do this and that. They're working like madmen, and really that pressure that this day-long challenge, one day only challenge, is insane.
Yeah.
They are walking continuously. We're seeing them walk almost to the runway with incomplete designs, unfinished hems. There's been multiple episodes, we've talked about this before, where Stanley's been, back at the sewing machine when Tim's like, Stanley, where are you at? Stanley.
Yeah, we saw a lot of interesting, stressful situations right before the runway. I mean, it's very common, but this one in particular seemed more so. But I did think it was funny how, when the models came in for the fitting, Daniel had his dress already done after he had to reconstruct it. Michelle barely had anything to put on her model, and then somehow right before the runway, Michelle was helping Daniel put the last bit together, which was interesting. Then there was Samantha, and I thought this was the worst of them all because she, I don't know, somehow got it onto her model, totally miscalculated. It was so short.
So short.
If it had been an inch shorter, you'd be seeing stuff.
You'd be seeing some hoo-ha.
You saw
a lot of thigh.
Saw a lot of thigh.
And let's talk about that heart detail.
It was horrible.
Horrible.
It was so bad.
It could have been so much cuter, and it just looked terrible. It looked like
just make a circle. Keep it simple.
A keyhole.
A keyhole. Make it a triangle. That would have been really modern.
Geometric is in right now.
Geometric is so
hot
in
right now.
I love geometrics. No hearts.
No.
No love for that one.
Yeah. This is not for Justice. This is for Lord and Taylor.
Seriously.
Or 2B. This is not for 2B. This is for Lord and Taylor.
Tubi. I love that you know Tubi.
Actually, I don't know Tubi, but
Okay.
my girlfriend was just talking about it.
There you go.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, before we get to the runway, I do want to, of course, say thank you to all of our subscribers, our listeners, all of you that are commenting and rating us and tuning in, because we do appreciate you and we love to hear from you. We want to hear more from you. Tell us who you are not impressed with this season. Could be a long list.
Actually, I would be more interested. Tell us who you're impressed with. Is there anybody that we're overlooking? Can you argue against us right now? Because we're not arguing.
Yeah.
We're surprisingly not arguing with each other.
We're kind of agreeing.
I know. That's
kind of boring.
That's super boring.
I gotta find something to disagree
Tell us
with you.
how boring we are. But tell us who you guys like from this episode, or from the whole season, and who's really won your heart. Because we haven't had fan favorites.
No.
You know.
Sadly.
And yeah, so I want to know what you guys are thinking. Of course, you have to rate us 5 stars.
Of course.
On that thing called iTunes.
On that thing called iTunes, and subscribe to us so you continuously are listening, and just join the conversation, because we want this to expand from more than just Cougar and I, because together, I mean, we're not that interesting.
I thought we would be like on fire right now, like, and just like, what are you talking about?
Well,
I can't
we
believe
haven't
you
gotten
said
to the
that.
runway yet. Maybe we'll completely disagree.
Right.
So thank you to
That's
our
true.
iTunes subscribers. Please keep doing that. We want to see you there. So let's get to the runway.
Runway time.
Runway.
Interesting panel.
Yeah.
Got
Who we have?
Zach is gone this week, replaced by one of the most gorgeous women in all of fashion, Rachel Roy.
She is gorgeous.
Super gorgeous.
She really is.
And they did a terrible job in the editing booth because they made her look chubby in like one shot.
I think that was a stylist. I think it was the hairdo.
Yeah.
I think the hair thing that she had going on.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good, but your totes not chubby, Rachel. You're super hot.
Not. You're way hot.
Way hot. And then Bonnie Brooke, the president of Lord and Taylor, who had a really interesting, like, nasally voice that I've tried to impersonate many times. And anyways, so yeah.
Anyways.
We saw them.
We saw them. And then we get to the runway. The first piece that comes down is Patricia's. She has this flowy tank with like corals and kind of like orangey colors with like a coral capri pants.
Right.
What were your thoughts?
I thought it was fine. It was springy. Everything fit well. I liked the flowy top that she ended up, just going with something probably a lot simpler than what she would have done without Stanley's controlling nature.
Right.
I think he did rein in some of her extreme creativity to make something that could be ready to wear.
Yeah.
Then we got to Stanley, who had the dress, that same dress that we saw in Nothing New. What'd you think about the dress?
Just like what I said. I mean, I think it was classic. I think it was simple, but very timeless. And I think there's, what I like about it and why I think it's great to be in a store is that it's a perfect color for spring 2013, and you can do a lot with it. You can accessorize that, So I think in that sense, I liked it, but maybe for this particular challenge, I don't think it was a winner.
Yeah, there was no push to it at all.
I thought they were interesting, though, because theirs was the only team we actually talked about. It was the only team that actually coordinated.
Yeah. That was the only cohesive, and I wrote that down, too.
And to go on your point about Patricia kind of holding back, I don't even know if it was Stanley. I think Stanley definitely had an influence, but, Tim was the one that told her, wait, like when she was talking about her pant, he's like, wait, but you have to remember the price point is $150 for the full look.
Right.
And she's like, oh, right. So I think that made her realize it. And I remember she even said, I'm totally prepared to do a simpler pant if I have to do that. So, I think she takes instruction actually fairly well. I think it's just how you deliver it, and I don't think Stanley's very good at it, sadly.
No, maybe the instruction comes well from Tim, and she doesn't do well with her like peers, because that's been the number one thing about her all season is just everybody. You can't talk to her, but maybe.
Do you think it's like an entitlement thing, like because I'm older than all of you,
I think it
and
could
I've
be
been
that.
in this business for longer than maybe like since you were in high school?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
She's also very, like tribal.
Yeah.
Not that has to do with anything. I just want to throw that out there. Like,
yeah.
What's up?
You're right. She is. So then we get to Richard. Richard puts down, as we mentioned, this black jersey dress that has a swipe of like pink, and it's not a good pink.
Bubblegum, Pepto.
It's more Pepto pink. Whereas Daniel's, I liked his bubblegum pink this was like Pepto, I'm not feeling good, pink. I don't want it on my dress.
Right.
Especially with black. And it was boring. And they even showed us that they put it like side by side, a dress that he's done before, and they're almost the exact same design.
Almost the exact same design. I will say, in his defense, that it was well constructed. It looked great. If he had picked a different color, even, you know what actually might have worked for him is if he had reversed it, not pink and black, but say he had chose a green or something like that, something a little bit more springy.
I agree.
But put the black in there, in that little space, and then the rest of it something more spring-centric.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think initially I was like, that pink and black, I don't like it at all. Do it in a different color, it's totally fine. But it is a dress that I can see people wearing. Right. It looks super comfortable.
Heidi said I would wear that.
Yeah, it looks super comfortable, and you could put that on and actually dress it up and look really put together. What I hated that black purse that he put with it. I don't even understand why he did that. Thought it was completely unnecessary.
He does not know how to hold a purse, and I thought he would be a man who knew how to hold a purse.
No, but you know what I think is funny, thinking back to the workroom with him? Tim said to him, are you at all concerned with the judges saying, you know, we've seen this look from you before? And he quickly was like, no. And he almost looked like, no, why would you even say that?
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't like it. It was nothing new.
Yeah. Over it.
Right. So then we have Samantha, and she puts down this like crazy mix of a dress. Ruffly skirt.
I'm just throwing the noose around my neck right now. Like.
The only thing that I liked about this dress, and I actually did like something.
Tell me,
I liked the cut around the neck and around the shoulders. I thought that looked well done.
It's very sporty.
Sporty, and it fit right in that area. The skirt, no. Then it was like ruffles, and it was like, you know, the different colors that she had going on.
If I were to imagine that as a look that worked, it would have been taking that top that she had created and just making a like right above the knee length dress with that pattern that she had created with the different colors, you know, the kind of the little bit of the color blocking that she had done. Yeah.
And again, I think that a cutout in the back could be really cute, but no heart.
Yeah.
Like that just took, you know, put in a different cutout and you could have just a classier.
Right.
You know, classier demographic, I think that would buy it.
You just made that Santee Alley when it could have been Lord and Taylor.
So true. Exactly. Then there's Liana, who, like we said, picked this floral print. It had like reds in it, some kind of pinks a little bit, and then there's green in it, a little bit of black. She did the leathering detail, which had like this kind of like, how would you even describe that belt? It was a cinched belt. And then the leather detail around the neck and came around and like crossed in the back, which I really liked. So I thought it was actually a really pretty dress.
It was probably my favorite piece outside of the winner. I think that there could have been a more thoughtful choice in the print, but I still would love to see a dress like that on a woman.
Oh yeah, I thought when I saw that, I was like, I want that dress. I really like it, and I was actually kind of surprised that they gave her, you know, they talked so poorly about this fabric and said that was the one thing she did wrong. When they said that, I thought, okay, I could imagine a lot, you know, so many other fabrics or prints that would probably be really pretty.
Right.
But, you know, when I saw that print, I actually liked it. I thought it was a pretty print. So I liked the dress. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I agree with you. It was my second favorite next to the actual winner.
Right.
So then we go to Daniel. And Daniel's turned into being this pink. He stayed with that same pink fabric, V-neck, structured shoulder with like a short sleeve, somewhat fitted, but he did have kind of like, I don't know, what was it, like a swoop of like fabric? How would you even describe it?
Flowing layered piece of fabric that came over the front, and I think he did that to help it transform from the jacket to a dress. And when I saw the detail, I liked the detail, and I actually disagreed with some of the judges' comments. Not that I'm an expert like Heidi Klum.
Right.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was somewhat visually interesting. He just didn't have, you know, very good finishing on it because it was a late thought, you know, a late idea coming to fruition. So
yeah, like we both noticed the hem.
The hem was terrible.
Just like even around the sleeves, around the bottom. it was not finished at all. I'm surprised they didn't actually call him out on that.
No, but Heidi said, they didn't call him out on that. Heidi said, we've seen this look a million times before. And I'm like, no, you actually haven't, because you don't see a lot of dresses that have this kind of layered fold that kind of swoops down from the top. And, you know, do
you remember in the workroom, though, it was like he was going to make that little swooping detail white, it looked like.
I don't know if he was going to make that white or if it was muslin.
Okay. Because when I saw that, I was really worried. Yeah. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
The pink and white, that would have been a little
but I liked the cut of it. Again, I think similar to what Stanley put down, it's one of those really classic, easy dresses that you could do a lot with.
Exactly.
And I liked the pink color personally. Then we get to Michelle. So she has this yellow chartreuse dress. What I loved, it was sleeveless. The top panel of it that was gray was sheer. And then the bottom panel that was also gray was leather, which you really couldn't tell.
Right.
But it was just, you know, a really straight dress, very simple. You could tell it was easy to put on. And then I love the back because it came down to like a V right in the back.
It was so ready to wear. And we both said that when we were sitting in the, we were agreeing while we were watching the freaking show. I'm so mad about tonight.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Because we're both like, man, there was
we were not agreeing. That's how I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, very ready to wear. Loved the dress, loved the look. Yeah. I had no idea that she had incorporated leathers in there, and I just loved the paneling. It was something that was so elegant and fun.
Yeah. It's so now, too. I love that color, and I love the gray color with it. It's perfect. It's so ready to wear. Michelle, I am ready to wear it. So send one my way.
Ba-dum-bum. Yeah, because apparently no sound effects tonight. Ba-dum-bum.
That's okay. We make our own. We can handle that. So that's our looks. Any last thoughts on the runway?
I think we really knew who was in the bottom, knew who was in the top. I'll say that.
Were there any surprises surprise critiques that came from the judges that you weren't expecting?
You know, I was very surprised by Rachel Roy giving credit to Samantha's dress and trying to give some, good points about how it worked in different ways, maybe tapping the junior market. I thought that was so surprising from her level as a designer. Yeah. Because Rachel Roy, I'm sorry. For however hot you are, the little heart dress thing didn't work at all.
She even suggested, you can make this dress a tunic. And I thought, a tunic with a heart cut out in the back?
Wrong. No, that didn't make any sense to me when she said that.
Why aren't we making Rachel Roy money?
Right.
Like, she's wrong. We are right.
If we could be, picked up as editors for some of these designers, we would be rolling in the dough, and they would be putting out so much better.
Well, it's never too late. I am available.
I know. Call me.
One thing that made me laugh was, Leanna said that her dress was hot, but in a very tasteful way, and I actually really agreed with that. And then Heidi was like, hot dress, horrible print, and I was like, oh. All right. Well,
they really bagged on her print.
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, they really liked her dress, and I agree with them. I would wear the print, but maybe I'm not Heidi. So that wraps up our runway. We had a really shocking end. Yeah. Michelle is the winner.
Michelle's the winner. Michelle and Daniel in the top as the winners. Samantha, Richard, Leanna in the bottom. Not shocking. We knew that was going to happen. Oh, what we didn't know, what actually I didn't know, was that Patricia and Stanley would be safe. I thought that was interesting. They just had enough points. Yeah.
And they loved each other at the end, too. Yeah. Right before the runway, they were hugging it out.
They were complimenting each other.
They're like, looks great.
So I wonder if we'll see that, if we'll carry on that team next episode. Bottom, Samantha, Richard, and Michelle. And I was scared for Richard because I knew Leanna was going to throw him under the bus. I felt like Sam was going to throw him under the bus.
And they did.
But actually in a very,
in a correct way.
In a very timid way. She pointed out what was wrong about his thing, but she wasn't like, Richard sucked to work with. His stuff was terrible. La, 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 la.
Well, but Leanna, actually, her reasoning, what she said was, I would like to see a collection from Samantha. If I had to pick who I could see a collection from, it would be Samantha. So she wasn't even critiquing what he actually did.
Yeah.
I don't remember what Samantha said.
She was just ready to throw the dagger, get him out of here.
Yeah. And I think they both, Samantha and Richard, both suggested
something critique about each other's pieces, okay, maybe they shouldn't be here because of this.
Right.
In this piece.
Who did Richard say should go home?
Sam.
which I thought was surprising. I was expecting him to say Lyanna.
But he still didn't. I think he knew that would have been, like, people would have expected that he wanted to go against it. But he also picked out something in the critique that, you know, her finishing and her construction wasn't great. So maybe she should go home for that. But they weren't catty about it, you know, towards each other.
Right. So there was a shocking ending.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
Samantha's out.
Samantha's out. I wanted Richard gone.
There we go with the sound effects.
Serious. It's exactly how we felt. We were shocked. Couldn't believe it. I don't know that I really want to see Richard another week.
And they built it up in the weirdest way ever, where they're like, yeah, you know, Richard's not creative at all. Samantha has a ton of creativity. And then they're like, somebody's like, well, I'd rather see more than see less. And then all of a sudden they kick. I would love to see what were the notes that led them to kick off Samantha instead of Richard. What did they think that he would add other than keeping him and Lyanna at each other's throats?
Right. I agree with you. It seemed like, oh, this is an obvious. We all knew who won.
Right.
It was so obvious who we thought would lose, and didn't happen.
I know. So they walk back into the room, and Lyanna's like, "You're in?
You're in?
You're in?"
That was like her tone.
That was,
it was kind of great.
Like, yeah, capture that moment right there.
Yeah. So that wraps our runway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any predictions?
Well, next week we've got we've got an actual episode where they go to the Guggenheim, I believe.
Yeah.
And they are going to do a textile design. So if I were to make a prediction, a safe prediction would be to say that Patricia has this one in the bag.
Yeah, unless she does a really horrible textile.
Unless she does a horrible textile, but in the little previews that they showed, all the judges' critiques seem to be very, very positive.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see what Patricia can do, because we haven't seen her do a textile since like almost the very beginning of the show.
Yeah, this is going to be her moment, because it's like she's always talking about creating the textile.
But she could also
doesn't have
really
time, so let's hope she pulls through.
She could also mess this up big time.
She could, but I'm thinking she probably wouldn't mess it up as much as Richard would, because we haven't seen any creativity from him really.
And he's stressing.
So I can't even imagine him creating a textile.
He was stressing in the preview.
Yeah. So that's my prediction. And that wraps our show.
We did a great show together.
We did a good show. I know. We could keep going. So that wraps it up. We want to keep the conversation going. You guys want to follow us, tweet us. You could tweet me at @low_Vias, or follow me on Instagram, which I'll be there way more, @lowvias.
And I am @Cougar Tweets on Twitter and Instagram. Follow, like us, love us, comment. Tell us how we did tonight.
Tell us how boring we were because we didn't disagree.
Or how adorable we both were.
How wonderful we are.
Super wonderful.
I'm just kidding. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.